Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for this online information session on the Uralla Shire Local Strategic Planning Statement. My name is Michael Pearce. I'm the Mayor of Uralla Shire Council. I'd also like to introduce Uralla Shire Council's Manager of Development and Planning, Mr. Matt Clarkson. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet here today and pay respect to elders both past, present and emerging. Just before we start, I'd like to explain the draft Uralla Shire Local Strategic Planning Statement, or the LSPS, will set out a 20-year vision for the Uralla Shire by planning for communities' economic, social and environmental land use needs. This plan identifies local planning priorities for the Uralla Shire, demonstrates how we will manage change and will in turn influence council strategies going forward, including our local environment plan, our development control plan and our community strategic plan. The draft LSPS has been reviewed by council several times now over the past 6 months and in council business papers and also at a councillor workshop. At our August council meeting, council decided to adopt the plan for public exhibition and community consultation. The draft LSPS is now on public exhibition, meaning that anybody can submit comments and feedback on the document, which council will then take into consideration prior to endorsing and formally adopting the document. We'd like to hear from the community for their feedback, which is why we're holding this information session today. I will shortly be handing over to Matt, who will go into further detail about our draft Local Strategic Planning Statement, or the LSPS, explaining why council needs to adopt this document and its purpose to do so. After that, we'll be answering some questions on the draft LSPS. If you have any questions while listening to Matt's presentation, please do send them through us on the chat line so we can ask them during our Q&A sessions very shortly. So Matt, it's over to you, and good afternoon, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to everybody who's listening or watching and has tuned in to see this. Look, as the Mayor has explained, every council in New South Wales is required to prepare a local strategic planning statement, or LSPS. The LSPS sets out the 20-year vision for land use in the local area, the special character and values that will be preserved, and how change will be managed into the future. The role of strategic planning is to provide a basis for planning decisions. Critically, strategic planning provides the community with transparency to the planning process. The draft LSPS reinforces the importance of community participation in shaping the plans that will guide future decision-making in our local area. The LSPS will implement actions in the regional and district plans and council's own priorities in the community strategic plan it prepares under local government legislation. The LSPS will shape how the community controls in the local environmental plan evolve over time to meet the community's needs, with the LEP being the main tool to deliver council and communities' land use plans. Councils have a lead role in preparing and endorsing the statement to ensure local views are reflected in the statements. There is a legislative requirement to review the local strategic plan every 7 years. However, it's anticipated that council will make more frequent revisions to ensure the LSPS continues to reflect the views of the Uralla Shire community and to remain responsive to local needs. The LSPS will be an evolutionary document, and it will be reviewed and refined as actions are achieved and strategic planning work is undertaken. The Uralla Shire community will have the chance to be involved in the development of future iterations of the document. Now, future revisions to the LSPS may also be required in response to new infrastructure, significant changes in projected population growth, or changes to our regional plans. So as we said, the LSPS is a 20-year vision. The main focus is on land use, but also takes into account our shared community values, special characteristics, and the management of growth and change. It sits below the regional plan in the planning framework, and it gives effect to that regional plan. It also provides a way for us to make changes to our local environmental plan and development control plans. So it gives us a strategic mechanism to do that. It also gives a mechanism to introduce change in the local government area. And this is one of the reasons why strategic planning is so important. And it also integrates land use planning through the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act and the Local Government Act. And that's where it ties in with our community strategic plan. As I mentioned, it has to be updated at least every 7 years. Ideally, we'll be updating it every 4 years to tie in with our operational plan. Now, the LSPS is published on the New South Wales Planning Portal, and we've been given a framework from the Department of Planning in preparation of the LSPS. So it must include the context, it must include planning priorities for the Shire, it must include actions to achieve these, and it also has a focus on the implementation. Now, how we'll use the local strategic planning statement. It gives reasoning that can be used when we are explaining land use requirements to the community. It can provide some justification as to why a development application was approved or denied. And it's very helpful when council wants to review its strategic direction. Now, I encourage people to read the LSPS and provide input. You can view it on our website. You can complete a survey, and you can make a written submission. Now, only written submissions or the survey can be considered, but beyond that, we'd encourage ongoing input into the local strategic plan so that we can incorporate the community's views and aspirations in future versions of the document. Back to you, Mr. May.
Thank you, Matt, for that information. So, Matt, I'll now ask some questions that we've received so far for the LSPS. And if you have any further questions during the session, please send them through to us via our chat line. So, Matt, the first question up is, how will the LSPS affect the development application process?
Along with the regional plan, whenever a development application comes in, we need to make sure that the proposed development aligns with our strategic direction. So that's in a broader umbrella with the regional plan, and it's provided a fair bit more detail about our strategic direction in the local strategic planning statement. So a development application cannot be approved if it doesn't align with our strategic planning.
Thank you. The next question, Matt, is what special considerations does the LSPS give to different localities within the Shire?
It doesn't really provide specific considerations for the different localities like the hamlets and villages, etc. But it does try to identify the character of these areas with the intent of maintaining the existing character and not introducing development that interferes with the historic nature and flavour of these areas.
Thank you. And after the LSPS is adopted, will this plan be reviewed in the next 20 years to meet the changing needs of the Uralla Shire?
Yeah, as I mentioned briefly before, the intent is to review the LSPS at least every 4 years, so that when we go out to community consultation for all of our various integrated planning documents, that the local strategic planning statement lines up well with these and reflects current community aspirations.
Thank you. And another question, Matt, has the New South Wales Planning Department provided feedback to Council during the development of the LSPS?
Yes, we've had 2 submissions from the Department of Planning. and generally their suggestions have been incorporated into the draft that you're looking at the moment. The first submission from the department has already been incorporated into this one, and we intend to incorporate more from the second submission that ties it to other strategic planning documents like our community strategic plan and broader plans for the New England area.
Okay, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have. If there's no further questions, that's all we have time for today. But and we've got one more question coming through. I've got a question for Matt. For what exactly were those submissions? You're on mute, Matt. What were those submissions from the department? Sorry.
Look, they covered a range of matters, even down to pictures and graphics and things like that. But the core of the submissions related to how we tied into other documents that have produced for strategic planning.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question, Matt. Currently, we're looking at several renewable projects, which are a good thing. However, has the wildlife corridors been determined yet?
In the strategic sense of those renewable projects, look, wildlife corridors will be considered because it's state significant development. The Department of Planning will be looking at the broader view of those renewable energy projects and looking at how they will come together as a whole. And in that, they will be looking at wildlife corridors and other environmental considerations.
Thank you. And Matt, I'm aware and you're aware of what state significant development is. Would you mind just quickly explaining to our listeners out there what state significant development is?
Sorry. State significant development is development in excess of $30 million. Now, with state significant development, council is not the consent authority. The Department of Planning and the Minister are the consent authority. So they're the ones who ultimately decide whether those developments will progress.
Thank you for that. Thank you again, Matt. So, ladies and gents, that's all we have time for today. If you have any further questions which haven't been answered here, please submit your questions to council in writing, either by email or you'd rather send us a letter in writing, please do so. Just a reminder, the council doesn't use social media as an official means of communication. So please email us instead of commenting on our videos so that we can respond. I'd like to remind all our viewers to please let us know what you think about our survey, and you can fill it in online or pick up a printed copy at our customer service office here at Administration Building. For further information, please visit our Planning for the Future website, easily accessible through the homepage of the Uralla Shire Council homepage website. This page has all the information on the draft LSPS, and you can download a copy of the draft LSPS by clicking onto the survey, or if you need to be, you can come straight to our customer service counter and you'll be provided with a copy of the LSPS. You'll also be able to find a link to watch this recording later on as well. If you'd like to make a formal submission on the document, this has to be in writing, either by email or post, and you'll find all the details on our council website how to make a submission. Please note that the closing date is Friday, the 25th of September, 2020 at 5 p.m. All submissions must be received by 5 p.m. Thank you again, Matt, for answering our questions and giving us detailed information on the draft LSPS. And thank you for people out there for viewing our little YouTube online segment. Council looks forward to hearing from your feedback on Council's draft Uralla Shire Local Strategic Planning Statement, and a very good afternoon to you, one and all. Thank you.